All right, guys, let's start with our grammar books. Go ahead and turn to page 79 in your grammar books. We're going to start there today. Page 79. Looks like this. We're going to talk about adverbs. All right, everybody there? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. Okay, good. Okay, adverbs. We know a little bit about that because we've been using those a lot in our writing lately, so that's kind of nice. But when we look for it in our grammar book, there's a few things we can ask ourselves to help us find the adverbs in the book, because a lot of times they have an ly, and that's the kind that we use in our writing stories. But sometimes they don't have an ly, so you have to kind of know how to ask yourself questions. All right. An adverb modifies a verb, so it helps us remember that because the actual word is adverb. And I'm so glad that whoever made up this word decided to make it easy to remember because it adds to the verb. So adverb helps us with that. It modifies a verb or an adjective or another adverb. Okay, so that's the other thing that it does. An adverb tells how, when, where, why, and to what extent. So here's what we need to remember. It says memorize it. How, when, where, why, to what extent. Here are the questions that you ask yourself when you're looking for an adverb in an existing sentence. So come back to this page when you're doing your homework this week to remind yourself, what are the questions I'm supposed to ask? So an adverb often ends in ly, and we already know that. So it says write ly above each ly adverb. Here we have, the dwarf respectfully bowed. He was exceedingly grateful. Okay, so here's how we find these. We look for the verb. The first sentence, he bowed. You know what a bow is, right? Like if you're on stage and you perform, or you're in a play or something, and it's at the very end, and then all the actors and actresses line up, and then they take a bow, right? They bend forward at the waist, and then the audience is like, woohoo, yeah, right, you did awesome, like that. Okay, so bow, take a bow.
Your phones, because I was in a play, and the
Yeah, perfect. So you know, and so that's a verb, that's an action. And when you ask like what how, if I ask myself, how did he bow? He bowed respectfully. Okay, he didn't bow sadly or anything like that. The word here is respectfully. So when you ask yourself, how did he bow? He bowed respectfully. Or that could also mean like to what extent respectfully. So see how respectfully has an ly. That's pretty easy to spot when it's ly. And I think in this book, most of them are ly. So they should be easy to spot. And then here he was exceedingly grateful. Grateful is the actual verb in this sentence. And if you ask to what extent, he was exceedingly grateful, not partially grateful, not halfway grateful. He was exceedingly grateful, which means really, really, really grateful, right? But you can see the ly here, and that is an adverb. So we're going to mark it with an ly just like that when we do our practice pages. So remember on the side here, here's your questions. How, when, where, why, to what extent? Okay, ask that about the verb, and that will help you find the adverb. Here it says ly adverb dresses up writing. We know that because we're already doing that. When it creates a strong image or feeling, look for ly adverbs in this book, and then write them on the ly adverb collection page. So in the back of this book, in the very back, I'll tell you what page to turn to. Page 189, just flip there just for a second. I just want to show you this page. Because you guys know how we've been making ly adverb lists in the regular writing part of the class. There's also these pink pages in our binder. Those have ly adverbs. Well, back here is a blank page for you to make your own list. So as you're going through your homework and you come across a good ly word and you think, oh man, I really like that word. I want to be able to remember it for my writing later. You can make a list back here. The reason why it's just gray and white and gray and white, you can write on the gray and the white. It just kind of separates it out. It's kind of like lines for you, okay? So you would just make your list back here, and you can use this when you do your writing in the other part of class, like for King Midas. Let's say you're writing King Midas again, and you're trying to find a really good ly adverb, and you go, wait, I remember there was a really good one in my grammar book. What was it? And you can come back here and find it. Okay, so now go back to our lesson page. Go ahead and turn to page 81. Now we're going to do page 81 together. Okay. Do I have any volunteers to read our sentence today? Alex, go for it. But you got to unmute first.
The first soldier returned to his friends. He was upset and sleepishly told them the story.
Good. And this word is, do you see the first half of the word? The word sheep is in there. Yeah.
Like
So if
sleep.
I add these, sheepishly. So sheepishly. Sheepishly is the vocabulary word. And that just means with embarrassment. You know, when you're really, really embarrassed and you did something really foolish and you're thinking, oh man, why did I just do that? I'm so embarrassed. That's what sheepishly means. Okay, so that's you have a question?
Yeah. Isn't that the ly adverb too?
Yes, it is. You got a sneak peek at it. Yes, it is. It's got the ly, so you're right. But it's also our vocabulary word. So you can put a check by vocabulary because we checked that and we know what sheepishly is now. All right, and then as usual, put a and the here. You guys know how to do that. Go ahead and mark the a and thes. There's only two thes. All right, let's look for some nouns. Christian, we need 3 nouns. Can you tell us the nouns?
Soldier.
Good. Uh-oh, I think Christian froze. Wyatt, can you help Christian? I think his internet froze on him.
Friends.
Friends, good.
Them.
Them is actually, wait, did you say them?
Them.
Yeah, that's actually a pronoun. That takes the place of a noun. So not them. Remember that in a minute, because we're going to talk about pronouns. There's one more noun in these sentences.
Story.
There you go, story. Now it's pronouns, and you already told us one, them is a pronoun, but there's one more. Cassie, do you know what the other pronoun is?
He.
Yes, good job. All right, we got some adjectives. Alex, these are words that describe the nouns. So Alex, go ahead and unmute. Look at the nouns and look at what words come before the nouns that are adjectives. Good, yes. So ADJ there. What else?
Let me see.
If you look at friends, you can ask like which ones, which friends.
Returned.
No, that's going to be a verb. But look right before friends, like what kind of friends? His friends or whose friends is how you could ask that. So that is an adjective, even though some people might confuse that with a pronoun. In this part right here, it's describing the friends. It's his friends. And remember, anytime you have a word that is a certain part of speech, it can't be more than one. So it can't be an adjective and a pronoun at the same time. It can be either one or the other. So this one is adjective. Okay, so then what about, there's one more.
This one's tricky. It's either
is.
upset or sheepishly.
Okay, good.
No, wait, it's upset.
It's upset. Good. And how did you narrow that down? How did you know? How did you know it wasn't
because
sheepishly?
Sheepishly was he told them he felt sheepishly, but he was upset.
Well,
and that the ly adverb
yes.
too.
Yes. So above sheepishly, let's go ahead and put our ly, because we already know that sheepishly is an adverb, so it can't be an adjective and an adverb at the same time. So good job, Alex. You thought that through. So upset is actually the adjective. Very good. We already marked our ly adverb. We saw that for sheepishly. Back to Christian. I know your internet kind of was weird for a second. We couldn't hear you, but what about the coordinating conjunction? Do you see one in these sentences?
And.
Good. So for that, we're going to put CC. That stands for coordinating conjunctions. You guys are getting faster at this. This is good. And then the prepositional phrase. So that is a phrase that starts with a preposition, remember. And you can look, I already see Christian using his book. He's looking in the back. Good job. Alex, do you know where it's at?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's either the or no, it's two. Or
So what
his.
is the phrase?
The phrase is the
Is it the or two?
two.
Yeah. But I think maybe what's confusing you is look at this word two right here is not the correct kind of two. It's there's a homophone here. And do you know how that should be spelled, Alex?
T-O.
Yes. So go ahead and fix that. And then he's right. To his friends is the phrase. And we already fixed the homophone. That's over here. So we got that. All right. Now we're looking for subject verb pairs. And remember, every sentence has a subject and sometimes more than one verb. So Wyatt, I'm going to start with Wyatt. Let's look at the verb in the first sentence. What is the verb, Wyatt?
First soldier.
The first soldier, I'm looking for the verb actually. So what did they do?
Returned. They
Good.
returned.
Good. That's the verb. But you're right. If we want to find the verb first, because that kind of helps it it's a little bit easier when you find the verb and then you ask yourself who returned. So who's the subject?
Soldiers.
Yes, there you go. So subject is soldier, verb is returned. And now the next sentence, Cassie, he was upset and sheepishly told them the story. So there's a couple of verbs in here. Where are the verbs in that sentence?
Told.
Good. Told. And then there's one more. This is a helping verb. I'll give you that clue. It's a helping verb.
Upset.
No, we already labeled that as an adjective. Right? So it's going to be right before that. This word was is a helping verb. Okay. So let's mark that as a verb. And then if I were to ask, who was it that told? Who was it that told in that sentence? Who's the subject?
Them.
No, because he told them. So who was it that told?
He.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. Because sometimes remember the subject can be a noun or a pronoun. In this sentence, it's actually a pronoun. All right, good. So we got those pairs. We need a capital for the first letter. And again, for this first letter, and then a period. Those are easy to do. So go ahead and rewrite at the bottom. Did you already write it, Christian? Oh, he's still, I think he froze.
I already wrote it.
Okay, good. When you're
Okay.
done writing it, give me a thumbs up and then I know to go on.
I wait for no one. I just go.
Okay, you guys about done? Give me a thumbs up if you're done. Excuse me. I see that, Christian. Good. Cassie? Good. Alex? Okay, Wyatt, still working? Got it. Awesome. Go ahead and put your grammar book aside. You're going to be doing the next 3 pages. So you're going to do pages 82, 83, and 84 for your homework. Okay. And remember, always go back to that Learn It page if you need to refresh your memory on something that we learned as far as like the adverbs and what questions to ask. Christian, do you have a question? No? Okay. All right, guys. So first of all, I want to talk about King Midas. And you guys did great with that. I'm still finishing up grading everybody's homework on the most recent one where you fixed your final draft. You made your final draft of King Midas and you fixed the things I told you to fix. So I'll give you notes on that again. So watch for the email that comes to you or your mom or whoever about what we fixed on there and my comments on that.
I did it all in one page.
Okay, good. So now we're done with King Midas. So I want you to put King Midas in your binder behind the tab that says finished compositions. I want you to put everything like your story sequence chart, your checklist, the original story, all those things go back there behind finished compositions. But you still need to keep your adverb list, like the pink and blue pages, need to stay at the front of your binder. So like these pages, keep those at the front, okay? But everything else, like the band words, keep at the front too. Remember this blue page. But everything that has to do with King Midas, you can move now to where it says right here, finished compositions. Behind that, you should have all the old stories back there. Right? And you're just going to add that to the back of that finished compositions. Cassie, did you have a question? No? Okay. Make sure you always close your rings after you put things in there. Otherwise, things fall out and then it's really hard to get it back. All right, now, done with that. Now, since you have your binders open, I want you to get out pages 55, which says why a possum has a bare tail. You need that one. And then you're also going to need 59, which is the checklist for that story, why a possum has a bare tail. Okay, so 55 and 59, those are the 2 pages you need to take out. 55 and 59.
Opossums always have bare tails, so it's
Yeah.
meant to,
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. It's kind of a fun story.
because all the other animals don't have it.
Well, we're going to find out. Give me a thumbs up if you have pages 55 and 59 out. Good. I see that. Alex. Good. Christian. I think Cassie and Wyatt are still working on it. Okay, well, while you get those pages out, I wanted to share a picture of an actual opossum. Now, I've heard it pronounced possum and opossum, both ways. So both ways are correct. It's kind of like tomato, tomato, it's just different ways of pronouncing it. I'm going to say opossum because that's just the way I know that word. So here it is. This is the opossum right here. And they are pretty ugly dudes, they look like giant rats. They have little claws, really sharp teeth, kind of a cute little pink nose, but they are pretty mean animals. Okay. And notice the tail. Hold on. I see your hands. Hang on a second. The tail looks like a rat's tail, right? It's pretty big. It's hard to see the size of this animal, but they're probably the size of like a small cat, maybe. They're bigger than a rat for sure. And they have this ugly bare tail like that. Okay, so Cassie, I see your hand up there.
Sometimes in my backyard there's opossums.
What size are they again? I couldn't hear.
Hold on, Christian, can you mute for a second? I can't hear Cassie.
Sometimes in my backyard we have those.
You see those? Yeah, that I've seen them around too. How about you, Alex? Do you have your hand up?
I actually like them, but they are in the rodent family, so they look cute and cuddly, but my mom dislikes them. She thinks they're hideous.
Yeah. And they carry diseases, so you don't want to try to pet these guys. They could bite you. Yeah.
Like, nasty.
Creepy. I know. Very creepy. Christian, yeah, you have your hand up.
So I think they're cute, and I've seen a dead.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they run out in the road, when people are driving. So, and these are pretty popular in California. I think all of us live in California. We're all in different cities, but they are, when I lived in Bakersfield, I saw them a lot in Bakersfield. Not so much in Tehachapi. I haven't seen any, at least on our property, but I do know they're around. So, okay. And then in this story, there's also another creature, this animal, the raccoon. Okay. And in our story, we're going to talk about that. Now, I have seen raccoons up here in Tehachapi for sure. They like to get in our trash and they like to live in the mountain areas. But I just wanted to point out their tail to you. Do you see this tail right here? And it's striped. That's something unique about a raccoon is they have a big fluffy tail and they have stripes on their tail. So I wanted to show you that because in our story, they're going to talk about that a little bit. So Alex, go ahead and you can say what you wanted to say.
I like raccoons. And I think of them as little Roberts or bandits because they always try to steal stuff with that little mask.
They are pretty cute like that. That's true. But you don't want to pick one up and cuddle with it. Raccoons are pretty vicious. Christian?
Well, they actually can be bandits because they like campers. They'll steal their food just like bears. And then they'll eat it.
They are like bandits. And it is kind of clever.
That like they took everyone's food except like they left them 2 berries.
Oh.
2 grapes.
All right, go ahead and put your hands down. We got to keep moving with the lesson. But this story is called Why Opossum Has a Bare Tail. Now you're going to find out that this story is fiction, which means it's a made-up story, right? Nonfiction is the true factual type articles that we read that maybe are about history or about real people or real places or things like that. So this is more of a made up story. So I'm going to read it and you follow along as I read it. Long ago, when the first animals roamed the land and all of them could talk. Okay, there's our first clue. Animals don't talk. And when we say talk, we know speaking English or a language or something, and maybe they make noises. I know what you're thinking, Christian, because they make noises and they can communicate, but this is talk.
Parrots can talk.
They can't talk in words and sentences with grammar and structure like we do. Okay.
They can copy people though.
Okay. In real life, they cannot talk like us. Okay. Opossum had a long, white, furry tail. Now, we just looked at a picture of an opossum, and it did not have a long, white, furry tail. So they're saying before it changed, they had a long, white, furry tail. He was proud of his tail, but one afternoon, he spied Raccoon preening himself on a branch of a tree. Now, preening just means he was cleaning himself. So he's probably you've probably seen cats do this where they lick their paws, they lick, they're cleaning themselves, keeping themselves clean. Okay, so that's what he was doing, keeping himself clean. Raccoon's tail with its lustrous rings, and lustrous just means shiny quality. It means it was really pretty, looked so elegant in the setting sun that Opossum became jealous and wished for such a tail. So he waddled over to Raccoon's tree, looked up, and asked politely, "How did you get those pretty rings on your tail?" So here he's speaking English, and we know that they can't do that in real life. So this is a fiction or a fantasy story. Now, Raccoon was haughty. Now, haughty means that you think you are better or more important than other people. Like you think you're the best. And so that sounds about right, because raccoons are they have an attitude kind of like that. Haughty and mischievous character who looked down upon Opossum. Raccoon determined to play a cruel trick on him. Well, I wrapped cedar bark, cedar is a type of wood, cedar bark around my tail here and here and here and here, he demonstrated. Then I placed my tail in the coals of a fire, and the fur between the bark turned black, but the rest remained white as you can see. Now, in the picture I showed you, it was more of a tan color, but in this story, they're making it sound like his tail was black and white, okay? Thanking Raccoon, Opossum rushed away to gather some cedar bark. He wrapped strips around his tail just as Raccoon had instructed, and then he went to the clearing in the forest where many of the animals were enjoying a big bonfire. And when the fire died down, he turned and placed his tail in the red-hot coals. However, the coals were still so hot that Opossum's fur and the bark caught fire. His tail was burning like a torch. He panicked and jumped into the pond to put out the flames. When Opossum saw his poor tail, his poor naked tail, he wailed and moaned. Although he waited for years for his lovely white tail fur to grow back, it never did, because the tail was so badly burnt. It remained bare for the rest of his life, and all his children, and all his children's children, and all his children's children's children have had bare tails ever since. The end. And here he is, frowning at his tail, and he's thinking, why did I listen to Raccoon? And staring at his tail. Okay, so what is the lesson that we can learn from this? This is like an Aesop's tale, fable here. So it's a made up story that we can actually learn something from. So what do you think, Wyatt? What's the lesson we can take away from this?
That you never trust a raccoon.
Never trust a raccoon, right? That's true. Christian, what else can we learn?
Don't put your butt in a bonfire.
Don't put your butt in a bonfire. All right. That's more like a tip. Like, hey, don't do that. That would not be smart. What about you, Alex?
To be thankful for what you had for, because if you wish for something, you get it one day, doesn't turn out good.
I like that, Alex. That's a really good point. It always seems like somebody else
Yeah.
and you'll see this in your whole life. You'll look at other people and you go, man, I wish I had that. Or I wish I was
I
like
say
that.
that all the time.
You know, you're always looking at somebody else, wishing you had what they had or whatever,
Yeah,
or
and
that
then
you were like them.
him,
Yeah.
the opossum, should have just stayed with this furry tail, because now he doesn't even have any fur.
Exactly. He should have been just happy with what he had and not trying to get what somebody else had.
Or
because he thinks
if
that's
they were
best.
talking, he could have just painted it black. If they were had like people personalities.
That's true too. Yes.
And it's so fiction. That's such a fiction story.
It's so fiction. It's more like fantasy. And
Yeah.
fantasy just means like characters are doing things that they wouldn't do in real life. And obviously,
It's
they
like
would-
can make it more like a story.
exactly. All right, you guys. So for now, the next thing we're going to do is get out a clean piece of lined paper. Okay. And a pencil. And last time for King Midas, we learned how to make a story sequence chart. And we're going to practice that again with this story. And this one's kind of fun and different. And it was kind of about the same length as King Midas, about, you know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, kind of a long story. But we're going to work on changing it into a 3-paragraph story. So go ahead and get your paper out. I'm going to show you how to make this again. All right. You know what to do here. Put your name at the upper left. By the way, side note, anytime you use lined paper for a sequence chart, for class notes, for your actual writing your story, always put your name and date here. Some of you still like to put it up here. And maybe you had a teacher in the past that let you do it here, that wanted you to, but I want it here for my class. Your mom, if she does, she wants you to put it up somewhere else for other homework, that's fine. But for me, it's got to be here, okay, on the upper left, and then the date right underneath that. So today is December 13th, 2022. And the reason we like to have the date is just so you know when you did it and what story it goes with, so that you can keep track of the order of the things that you did in my class. It's always a good idea to date things. Okay.
12 days. I just calculated 12 days till Christmas.
12 days. Oh my goodness. You can start singing the song, the 12 Days of Christmas.
Oh,
Oh
And then you can start singing it today. That's pretty cool.
yeah.
All right, so skip a line and we're going to put the name of this story, which is called, it's kind of long, so start over here a little bit. Why Opossum has, notice that some of these words are capital and some of them are not. A bare tail. As you're writing that, always in a title, you always capitalize the very first word, no matter what it is. Even if it's the word the or a, you're going to always capitalize the first word. And then you're going to capitalize the important words of the title. Obviously, opossum is in this story, so that's an important word to make sure it's capital. And then has, that's part of the title. A is just a small article. We know a, and the are articles. You don't have to capitalize those. But then bare tail, that's important in this story. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. But titles have some capitals and some lowercase, and there's some rules that we'll learn about that. But for now, just write it like that. And then underneath that, you're going to write story, sequence, chart. Okay. And remember, we did this before, but I'm just going to remind you, I skipped 2 lines here. And then I'm going to draw a line down like this, right down the middle of my paper. So just watch me and copy exactly what I have on the page here. And then on the right, we're going to do that part first. So start at the top with Roman numeral 1. And then 1, 2, 3. Skip 1 line, Roman numeral 2, 1, 2, 3. Skip 1 line, Roman numeral 3. Roman numeral 3 has 3 lines like that. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3. Now I made my middle line too long, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. You guys got that so far? Good. Now we're making a chart. So right above Roman numeral 1, I'm going to draw a line across like this. Okay. Right above Roman numeral 2, I'm going to draw a line. And right above Roman numeral 3. That kind of turns it into a chart. Now, if you want to make one at the very bottom of your line, that's fine too, to make it nice and tidy, but you don't have to on that bottom part. I like to make my notes neat. But we just have some extra space. We might add something there, or we might not. We can decide that later. Okay, so you remember while you're writing this down, keep copying this on your page. We used to do the keyword outline, and we used to just look at each sentence and pull out those keywords from every sentence and make a list of 3 for each line. And then we learned just recently how to make a story sequence chart. So we're not going to look at every sentence anymore. These stories are too long. So now we think about parts of the story, and then we think about the words that we can remember from the story to make our chart. Okay, so it's a little bit different. We're not looking at each sentence. We are looking at, in our head, what are the main parts of the story that we need to make in this chart or write down in this chart. Okay, Alex, I see your hand.
I missed the keyword outline. It was fun. But I'm not used to this one. It's harder.
This one's a little harder. You'll get used to it. I bet in a few weeks you'll say it's fun because you'll start to see the pattern and it gets a little bit easier. But just remember, if you ever have an assignment, even if it's not in my class, let's say your mom is, you're reading a history story about Abraham Lincoln, and she wants you to retell the story in writing or something, you can always use that keyword outline. And I'm glad you think it's fun because that can help you in other subjects too.
Okay.
So, okay. You'll get used to it though. Okay, so everybody have this so far on the right here with the Roman numerals? Good. I see you nodding. Good. Now on the left, this is where we put our notes to help us remember what we're doing here. So the first box, I want you to write the word characters / setting. Okay, remember that's what the first part is. The Roman numeral 1 is all about characters and setting. And then underneath that, on that square or rectangle really, I want you to write the word who with a question mark. Because that's what we're thinking about, like who is in this story? Well, in this story that we just read, there are 2 characters, 2 main characters. Who are the 2 main characters in this story? You can just unmute and say it.
The raccoon and the possum.
Good, you guys got it. The raccoon and the possum. I knew you guys all knew that. Oh,
That's
possum.
so easy. There's not like a billion characters.
Yes. And so next to that, I want you to put the word like. And that just means, what are they like? Not what do they like? What are they like? What's their personality? Are they happy? Are they fun? Are they evil? Are they mischievous? Are they greedy? Are they, there's lots of ways you can describe a character. We know from King Midas, he was greedy, right? That was what he was like. Hold on, Alex, hold that thought, because we're going to come back to that question. And I know you're already thinking of a good answer, I'm sure. And then underneath the word who, I want you to put the word where. And then one more when. Okay, and that's it for that box. Who are they like? Actually, just kidding. There's one more I want you to put in here. You're going to put like a little arrow like this and put image. Image just means, it's another word for like picture, right? So you want to be thinking about what kind of setting it creates this visual in your head. If I say, not this story, but let's pretend I'm going to tell you a story about an astronaut and he's on Mars. Already you're thinking of this orangish, reddish planet in space. It's dark, you see stars, maybe there's a spaceship, or maybe there's like aliens, or whatever, you already start thinking of an image in your head. So when you write your first paragraph, telling the setting of the story helps the reader imagine where they're at. Okay, that helps. It helps with the image of it. Okay. The next box, next to Roman numeral 2, is going to be the problem / conflict. The problems / conflict. And we're going to be talking about that as we go in this story, because obviously the opossum has a problem. Well, what he thinks is a problem. It's not a big problem or not even a real problem, but in his head, it's a big deal. Okay. So we'll talk about that as we go. I'm going to have you leave the rest of this blank for now, and we will fill this in as we go. So let's just focus for today on Roman numeral 1, because we only have a little bit of time left. All right. And you are correct. You already told me that the characters in the story is opossum and the raccoon. But at the beginning of the story, we only know about the opossum, right? So we're going to put opossum here. And remember, for the keyword outline, for this story sequence chart, we have to follow the same rules. You can only have 3 words for each of these lines, each of these numbers, but you can use symbols and numbers for free and abbreviations for free, right? You don't have to count those. So right now we're starting with the opossum because he's the first one in the story. I'm saying he, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but oh yeah, it is a he. He was proud of his tail. Okay, so they're both boys. All right. Now, tell me something about the opossum. What was he like? What was his personality like, Alex?
He was like eager to get his tail. He liked his tail, but he liked the raccoons better. He wanted it. And the raccoons, he was like this very tricky, mischievous trickster.
Okay, you're going ahead of me. You're right about the raccoon. He was a trickster, but the opossum, he was proud of his tail in the beginning, right? He liked his tail. So let's put proud. But then there's another word I'm thinking of, because remember, he was proud, and he even said that in the story. But then when he saw the raccoon, there's a word for that. When he saw the raccoon and we saw the raccoon's tail, Cassie, what do you think?
He was jealous.
Jealous. I like it. Jealous. That's perfect. So we know the opossum is proud. He was proud of his tail, but then all of a sudden he became jealous. So see how we wrote down the character and a little bit about the character, what he was like. All right, then let's talk about his tail for a second. This is the opossum's tail. So Wyatt, what was his tail like in the very beginning of the story?
White. Nice and
Good.
white.
White, and what else, Wyatt? Was it?
Tail.
It was a tail, but was it skinny in the beginning?
Soft.
Soft, and I'm looking for the
Fluffy.
word. There we go. Fluffy. I felt like we were playing a game for a second. I was like, what's the word? Like Jeopardy or something. Okay, fluffy, and then tail. So we've got those three words, white, fluffy, tail. But you know what? Honestly, Wyatt, if you like the word soft better than fluffy, you could use that word. Remember, the story sequence chart is only what you decide is the most important information about something. So this isn't like a test where there's only one right answer, okay? Just wanted you to know that, because eventually you guys are going to start making these by yourself. But for now, we're doing it together as a class. That'll make it a little easier to understand. All right, then, who's the next character that comes into the scene? Christian, who's the next character?
Raccoon.
Raccoon. Now we need to tell a little bit about the raccoon, but first, not about him being tricky and mischievous and all that yet. Let's talk about, what does Opossum notice about the raccoon, Cassie?
His tail.
His tail. And what especially about his tail did he like?
The stripes.
The stripes. Good. So let's say, or they, in the story it's called rings, but you can call them stripes. And we're talking about his tail. We know that. Would you say that Opossum thought it was beautiful, or that it was special, or what other word could we say? Elegant. I like it. I think they actually used that word in the story too. So now we've got bringing in the other character, the raccoon, and the stripes. And so we're going in the order of the story too. Remember that. That's part of this sequence, is starting at the beginning. We're not going to give away any clues yet about the raccoon being mischievous or tricky. Not at the beginning. That comes in later. But we'll talk about that. All right, for the next part, where was okay, the next part, the opossum starts talking to the raccoon, but where was the raccoon at that point in the story? So we're going to talk about where are they in this story? So Alex,
The raccoon is in the tree.
he's in the tree in the forest, right? So that's where they are. Yeah, so they're in the forest. So let's put forest here. And then we're going to draw a little, I'm going to put R with a circle around it as a symbol for raccoon. And then I'm going to draw a little tree right here, like a little Christmas tree. Because in the forest, usually in the mountains, they're pine trees and they look like little Christmas trees. So you can draw a little Christmas tree here. So the raccoon's in the tree. Now, what does the opossum say to the raccoon when he sees him in the tree? What does he say? You can check the story. You can peek at it if you need to. Wyatt, what does he say?
That his tail was very nice.
Okay, so let's put in quotes. Nice tail. Or you could even put pretty tail, or awesome tail, or like, wow, you can just put whatever words you think would fit best at that part. Remember, I told you this isn't like a test where there's right or wrong. This is just your interpretation of this story. The most important thing is to answer these questions in this box here. And we did. We talked about the characters. We answered who and what do they like. We got that. We answered where. That's in here. And sometimes we don't need when. In this story, we don't really need to talk about when. We don't know. I mean, it's probably daytime because you can see him up in the tree. But it's not important. It's not an important piece of this story, but mainly who and where. And we got that. They're in a forest. The raccoon's up in the tree. And he says, wow, that's a really nice tail. It's so pretty. What a nice tail. All right. We're going to stop there on your story sequence chart. Now, for your homework, I bet you can guess what you're going to do for your homework. Anybody want to take a guess on what you're going to do, Cassie?
We're gonna rewrite paragraph 1.
You got it. You see the pattern in my class now. We're learning how to do this and we're practicing writing it. So you guys are going to write paragraph 1. So really quick, I want you to look at the checklist, the other page that you got out of the book here. It is page 50. I think we said it was 59. Here it is. 59. Now, we're only doing the first paragraph, so you don't need to worry about paragraphs 2 and 3 yet. But here's what I want you to use. Some of you are forgetting this stuff, okay? Please use this, especially Cassie with double spacing. Please double space this time. So it says name and date, upper left corner, always. Double space, composition double space. That means skip lines. Don't worry about the title yet. You don't have to pick a new title until we're done with the third paragraph. So wait on that one. Make sure that when you write your paragraph, you're following what we wrote in class for your story sequence chart. And then the first paragraph, it says each paragraph contains at least 4 sentences. So you need at least 4. If you think of something else to add, that's okay, but you only need to put 4 sentences. Because remember, on your story sequence chart, you've got 4 things here. You've got Roman numeral 1, and then you've got 1, 2, 3. That's 4 altogether. So each one of those makes a sentence. Don't worry about this one, checklist on top. Don't worry about that one, okay? But here's the one I want you to pay attention to right here. And we're just doing paragraph 1. You need to have at least one ly adverb in there, in that paragraph, okay? And you can have more than one, but you only need to underline 1. You need to have at least one, who, which clause. Now, in this story, these characters are acting like people. They're personified is how we would put that. So you can use who when you're talking about the raccoon or the opossum, okay? Just in this story, because they talk, they're humanistic, they're like humans, okay? So you can use who. Unless you're talking about the tree that the the raccoon is in, then you would use which. The tree, which was 10 feet tall, you could say the raccoon was in the tree, which was 10 feet tall, or something like that. Okay, and then you got to make sure you have one strong verb. A strong verb is a verb that gives more description about what's happening. Okay, and then here, this is really important. Don't use say, said, or seesaw. Actually, I don't think we've covered seesaw yet. I think we're going to talk about that next time. But you can't say said. You can't say the opossum said to the raccoon, I love your tail, or something like that. You would have to say the opossum complimented the raccoon, or the opossum shouted. Maybe the raccoon was way up high in the tree and he shouted. You can't say or said anymore. Does that make sense to you guys? You have to think outside of that box. Okay, Christian, I see you have a question.
Well, instead of the raccoon in a 10-foot tree, how about the 10-foot raccoon in the tree?
That would be pretty funny to write about, huh? We are going to learn how to change the story a little bit, but for this time, for this story, keep it pretty true to the original, okay? Okay, now down here, capitalization, end marks, punctuation, complete sentences, and correct spelling. Just make sure you have those things in place as you go. And remember, the strong verb, if you say the raccoon, or you could say the opossum looked up into the tree. Well, looked is kind of a basic verb, right? You could say peered up into the tree, or gazed up into the tree, or searched up into the tree, or something like that. A different verb other than looked, so that it's more of a strong verb. Remember, those words tell more about what's going on. All right, and then your pages in your grammar book, as usual, those next 3 pages, it's page 82, 83, and 84. Any questions about your homework? So Alex has a question. Go ahead, Alex.
So when do we turn the homework in?
Okay, so the homework is due before your next class, and your next class is not going to happen until after New Year's.
Oh, so we have that much time to do.
Well, I don't want you to think about it that way, Alex. I want you to do it before Christmas, because you're going to forget about this story. If you wait for 3 weeks before you write the story, you're going to totally forget. You have to start over again.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you guys, you need to have it done this week. Okay, you have time. Get it done before Saturday, and then you can have the rest of your vacation. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so
Yay.
yes. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
And
Christmas.
Happy New Year. And I will
Merry
see you next
Christmas.
year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
A partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, we can start singing it now.
I don't know. Bye.
Bye. Merry Christmas, you guys. See you next year. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Alex.